Hello, this will serve as a review of Week 1, Chapter 1, and you will see that on your assignment sheet that I work you through these different steps. What is underlined in it and in italics are deliverables, things that you have to do as opposed to read. So Chapter 1 begins with some review questions according to the textbook that you have to answer. Steps 2 and 3 are just reading some information. Step 4 is selecting an issue from a group of topics. Step 5, you're answering questions according to the topic you selected in group 4 and from your brainstormed list. Then we're going to emphasize steps 5, 6, and 7, which involve the virtual library from ITT and making a reference page. This sets down the groundwork for the rest of the semester, how a reference page is made, and some information about where to go best in the virtual library for the purposes of this class. So the steps are given here, where we're going to go to the virtual library, find our location called opposing viewpoints. We're then going to work through our topic selection and find 2 articles in the virtual library. We're going to work with the internet, finding a couple more topics. Then we're going to create the reference page for all of those topic articles that we found. So let's jump to the virtual library at this time. Last semester, the virtual library was updated. One thing I don't like about it at this point is that on some screens, according to what size screen you're working off of, this browse button doesn't initially appear. You have to scroll down to find it. But what you do need to do, and this is my easy way of using the virtual library, is hit this button Browse, and then do the Browse by Format section here. Select Magazines and Journals. Once you're in the Magazines and Journals list, scroll down until you find Opposing Viewpoints in Context. It's in alphabetical order. Just click through the hot link to Opposing Viewpoints in Context. This is a database that has kind of the Reader's Digest version of a lot of different articles. These articles, one, are very easy to read. Lots of our topics will be here, certainly, and also it will make the reference page for you practically. So at this point, you can use the search bar here, or you could browse the topics below. But let's just say that you were using the topic of gun control. So when you search for the topic of gun control, you then are going to be faced with lots of different articles. For example, here you could view all 242 articles. Here's 6. There's different ones all through this then according to whether it's a news article, a journal article, just viewpoints articles, etc. So when you're using this as first for this assignment in Chapter 1, but as you go through and use this for research, you just select your article. Let's say that we take this one. Stronger gun control laws will save lives. You have lots of different options here, but this is an article then that gives us information about gun control. As I scroll through the article, I want you to notice that there's further readings, which we can ignore at this time. I want you to go through that because what you're looking for is this source citation. Now, when you're doing research, you want to be able to find this article quickly again. So I would suggest that you use these document URLs to be able to do that. So when I'm going to make a reference page for this article, I'm simply going to copy all of this, just using the mouse, the right click. I'm going to copy, then I'm going to bring it over into a document. So I open up a new Word document and then I paste it. If I have some options here on the pasting, okay? So this one keeps the source formatting, this one keeps it in a text. I would use this first one that looks like a clipboard, because if you've already started a document, it will match then that font, etc. Now, one of the troubles with this, like I said, is a working reference page will have this URL. Eventually, you'll drop this off of a turned-in reference page. But as you're working on a project, you could keep this URL, because this is what's going to allow you to be able to jump back to that article very quickly. And it's always very long like this. But what I'm mainly after is this entry that you've copied and pasted. This is not in APA format as it is. I've highlighted it here, and how to make it into APA format will involve us being able to indent it properly. The easiest way to do that is to look at this button right here in Word. This is our line spacing option button. APA format involves double spacing, so that's the first thing that I'll pick, is the 2 for the double spacing. The second thing I'm going to do is go to line spacing options. I'm going to go over to special. I'm going to say hanging, because it's going to indent our entry exactly like APA, which is the second and third lines indented. So this is how this is done according to APA, the second and third lines indented. So again, simply what we've been able to do is, when we're working with virtual library, opposing viewpoints, and you find that entry for the source citation, which is at the bottom of the articles, you simply are going to copy, paste, and to retain this indentation here, you can use that button. So let me show you just one more article to be able to do this again for you as a one more time example. Let's just take this article. This is why opposing viewpoints is excellent, because you are going to save a lot of steps, you'll see, if you just use this and do the copy paste method. So again, at the bottom of this article is the source citation. If I'm working on my project, I want to keep this source citation with the URL. When I turn it in, I'll drop that off. But as long as I'm working on it, I want to include that. So that will just be part of my working document. My final document for my reference page, I can delete this. So I've used the other button for the pasting. I used this particular one. But either way, what I'm worried about is this first part. I simply am going to highlight it, going up and making sure that it's at the double spacing. I then go to line spacing options, special, hanging, which is a hanging indent. It's going to indent this properly done according to APA. That is how that entry is done. Okay, now let me show you how a reference page then is set up. In APA, we have the header, and if you go to insert, you go to the page number, top of the page, and if you just click this and add it's usually the title of your article, or title of your essay, or in this case the assignment is to create a references page. You could put week 1, you could put the title of your essay like gun control in America, whatever it is your title is going to be is there. That's what APA requires. So that was insert and page number. And once I get to page number, top of the page, select the one that's over to the right, and then you can simply add the word before that. When you just click off, then you are faced with where you could put the heading, which is not a header. This will repeat, the header will repeat page 2, 3, 4, etc. as you make a document with multiple pages. When you do the heading, then it is just the first line of your uh, assignment. And this is also double spaced, but it's your name, my name, the class name, and this could be Comp 2 Tuesday, Comp 2 Thursday, and the date. The title of your, if this is a reference page, it's references, but this eventually will be the title of your essays. And then we have the reference page entries that are here. As you see that if it goes to the second or third line, it is indented like I just demonstrated. And this example is, in end grade so that you can look at that again. Okay, but that is the reference page. And your assignment sheet for week 1 called for you to go to the virtual library, go to opposing viewpoints, find your topic and find 2 articles and do just what I just finished doing. This is the easiest and best and fastest, less work area way of finding reference material. So all through the semester we'll be asking for you to document your different opinions about different topics, and this is where you can go and do that. The reference page entry is practically made for you, with the exception of maybe knowing how to hang the entry, making sure that it is indented properly. So this is the fastest, easiest way. It is also the way that gives you the best sources, sources that you don't have to worry about if they're valid sources or good sources for the sake of this class. When you go out on the internet, there's a warning because you have to use only valid sources for this class. So that means that you cannot use wikis, ask, buzzles, places like Livestrong. All kinds of places are out there on the internet that you think those are articles that are giving you the best academic information about your topics. And really, all they are is articles that have been bought and sold over and over and over again for certain sites like, again, like Livestrong and Yahoo Answers and all those kinds of places for only search engine optimization. They are not true, valid sources. So if you want to spend more time doing your research, and if you want to have a harder job doing your research, then use the general internet. The Google searches. If you want it easier, stay in opposing viewpoints, because I'll walk you through this at this point. So on the internet, I can search for my topic, and I could find 2 valid sources certainly that are on the internet, but I need to look for major newspapers, news sources, .govs, .edus. I need to find a very valid source for my information, and then I have an entire different step to create the reference page information using one of many sources called Night Site. And then I'm giving you the experience here in week 1 of now how that process will take you into a much longer process, a much more difficult process. So I hope you're getting my hint here. So where we just on our reference page simply copied and pasted, now if I go to the regular internet, let me pull up a new tab here, and I search for my information topic at this point, let's say gun control. What I have to do is make sure that I find a valid source. Wiki is not going to work. Blogs are not going to work. Buzzle's not going to work. Different things like that are not going to work. We do have some major news sources. So let's say that I use this article from CBS News here. So this would be a valid source, CBS News. I now have a whole article that's here. What you're going to notice with different internet articles, even at major news sources, is that there's not going to be necessarily an author. There's going to be maybe a day here, but there's not necessarily going to be an author. So that's going to be a complication that we'll have making the reference page information. So I could see clearly there's no citation that I can just copy paste. I have to do all of this manually at this point. So I now have to go to a website called Nightsite. There's many of these, but this is just one that I'll show you. When I go to Nightsite, KNIGHTCITE.com, it'll pull me to this place that's sponsored by Calvin College. I need to select APA. I need to then select that it is a website document. That will bring me to a form that's here that I have to fill out. There's no author's name. I'll need to skip it. I'll put the website title. So if I get lucky, I can copy and paste this. So that's the website, the document title. The website title was CBS News. The date that this was published usually is given, but if it's not, we'll have to skip that as well. So this was published December 9th. And was it found using a database? No, it was accessed on this year, and we do want to include the URL so that we can find this article again. So again, I'm copying that. So you see I've had to fill out an entire form. I would have had to have put the author if it was there. More than one author, I would have had to have filled out that form as well. If the website has this title, etc., I've got to fill out all this form. So that's a whole lot more work than just copying and pasting. This is a whole lot more work, especially if you don't have a valid source to begin with and that source is rejected by me. But once you fill out the form, you hit submit, and what you're left with then is the APA reference entry, which you now have to copy and paste this into your document. We'll just use this sheet here for the sake of an example. And if I get lucky, I can use this clipboard option, and then I have the entry here. So then it is at that point a copy paste. But this Nightsite is used for anytime you go out on the internet to find a particular article, you need to make sure you hit APA, and probably you're down here in the website document and you have to fill out the whole form, including the URL, so that you can for sure find this again. Okay, so that's how that is done. And if you look at your assignment sheet for week 1, step 5 was to go to the virtual library and find 2 articles and create that reference page entry. Step 6 was to go out on the general internet and use the Nightsite. So then you will have 4 articles total on your references page. So when you have a document then that looks like this, where you have your 4 articles spelled out like this from the virtual library and from good sources, you can see I've dropped off the URLs. Typically, I would have a working reference page with those URLs, but then when I go to turn the assignment in, you could drop the URLs off, but you still have them saved somewhere so that in case you have to go back to those URLs and find your articles again. But this is all then made neat. It's all should be double spaced. And I believe that this is not entirely. So it should all be double spaced. You have the header, you have a heading, and then your assignment would be complete with 4 of these, 2 from the virtual library and 2 from the internet, but always good sources using Nightsite. Okay, so that is the review for week 1.